Stop. Don't buy that Pix package or All Access. Wait, what? Yep, don't click Add to Cart until you check out our new deals page at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo, where you can find all the latest offers, promotions, and coupons available all in one place. These deals are updated daily and can be found by clicking Deals in the nav at WagerTalk or Sports Memo, going to wt.buzz/deals, or scanning the QR code on your screen.
Hey guys, welcome to Stoppage Time. I'm Carmine Bianco, WagerTalk.com. We're back from a brief hiatus. We are going to do a special show on 3 MLS games this weekend, and then we're going to get in next week right back into doing some previews for the top 5 leagues in Europe. 3 games of interest in MLS first that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Toronto and San Jose. It comes this week, and I'll explain why we're talking about that one. We're going to do Seattle and Portland, one of the fiercest rivalries. And, of course, El Tráfico as LAFC hosts the LA Galaxy. With me from WagerTalk.com, it's Nick Borman and Kevin Dolan. And from Sports Memo, one of my favorites, Pavlos Lagaretos. Guys, let's bring you in. Pavlos, I'm going to go to you first because I was at the game last weekend as a TFC season ticket holder. Your Seattle Sounders in town, and neither team had been playing well, but it just continues for this Toronto team not playing well, and we'll discuss it when we talk about the San Jose game. But your Sounders came in and laid a beating on TFC. I'm sure you enjoyed that game.
Yeah, I sure did, and I always enjoy when Seattle they beat Toronto. But yeah, I mean, I was actually very happy to see the Sounders performing that well without Rui Diaz, who has been missing for the last 3 or 4 matches, and that kind of cost them on the goal scoring department. Not that much, but I'm surely expecting Rui Diaz to be back this week, and he's gonna be providing a lot of firepower in this already very good Seattle offense, along with Morris and Lodeiro. I think they're the best offensive trio in the league, and we'll probably see a lot of goals maybe in the match against the Timbers. But Toronto, I think they're going to dip soon. But we'll talk about this later on.
Yeah, we will definitely talk about it, but let's bring in Nick Borman. Nick, you're a Philadelphia Union fan, and your team, I'm going to throw a little humor in here. You guys must be full of artists because you guys love to draw. Every time I see your Union result, it is a draw. How's it going?
Yeah, we don't lose very often, but we don't win very often either. You're right. But it's chipping away. I guess it's some points to stay in the thick of the playoff race. But things are going well. I mean, it's quiet, obviously, on the soccer front right now. But with MLS going on, a little in Brazil, Mexico starting back up, and then we got Champions League qualifiers going on. So you got all the low league players kind of getting in there and getting involved. And Copa Libertadores, it's been a good 2-week run, up 30% just those last 2 weeks alone. So still chipping away during the summer while things are quiet, but MLS has just been fantastic all year. So excited to talk MLS today and break down some of these games. But yeah, things are going well.
And speaking of Champions League qualifiers, this man was so excited about the Shamrock Rovers winning yesterday that he traveled back to Ireland to do this show. Welcome again, Kevin Dolan. How you doing?
Yeah, all good, Carmine. It's good to be back in Ireland. Obviously, had my first proper pints of Guinness in a long time last night, so probably feeling a bit today. But look, I've told you so many times, I'm a Derry City fan. We have a big match against Riga FC coming up, so that'll be my European focus now for the next while. But same as the boys there. MLS been going really well as well. 20-10 run. Been taking it fairly light over the first half of the season, but it's a league that's definitely more and more caught my interest after starting it last year for the first time. So we'll look to ramp that up over the second half of the season. But looking forward to Europe starting, and MLS in full swing as well.
Yeah, and MLS is in full swing. We're into the second half of the season, so let's get right to it, guys. First game we're going to discuss is the Toronto FC and San Jose Earthquakes game. Let's have a look at the numbers on this one if we can get them up on the screen. Toronto FC plus 115. I'm not seeing it on the screen. Sorry, the draw is plus 275, and the Earthquakes are plus 200. I'm not seeing the numbers properly, so you'll have to excuse me. Anyways, guys, listen, I'm in Toronto, so I'm hearing all the news on this one, and there's a lot of buzz going around as with regards to TFC, of course, as of late. And of course, this week, just yesterday, Toronto makes a move, sends Alejandro Pozuelo, the 2020 MLS MVP, to Inter Miami, freeing up a DP spot. And there's a lot of rumors they are bringing in former Juventus player and Azzurri player Federico Bernardeschi on a free transfer. So we're going to see what happens there. But of course, this weekend will be the first game for Lorenzo Insigne, who they signed from Napoli as well too. Cressida will also make an appearance for them, signed again from Italy as well too. Bob Bradley keeps talking about how close they are, and that switch is finally going to click. But I keep going to these games, and they keep losing. For me, it's that back line. You've got two wing backs, 19-year-old Thompson, and then you have Petrazo, 22 years old. They looked out of place on the weekend against the Seattle Sounders. They didn't look very good at all. And again, you look at these two teams. These are two of the worst defensive teams. The Earthquake, 35 goals allowed. Toronto, 34 goals allowed. The two worst defensive sides. There's only one way I can look at this, Nick, and I am going to go with the over 3 in this game. It's going to be an electric atmosphere on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. Insigne. It's going to be a stacked stadium. Nick, I'm going to go to you on this one, but I want to put up an XG sheet if we can. So, Nick, tell us what we're looking at on that XG sheet. Sorry, I had to mute my mic for a second. The fire alarm went off upstairs, so you guys will have to. I apologize for that, but that wasn't coming from Pavlos's house. It was coming from mine. Nick, let's have a look at that XG number. If you can explain the XGs to the people out there watching now or later on WagerTalk TV.
Yeah, I heard that beep, and I was looking around to make sure I wasn't burning down either. Yeah, the XG graphic I put together, just compiling XG data after each game, and basically just ranks the team. So I sort it by the differential column. That's XG differential, top to bottom, basically showing who's creating the most chances. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to goals, but over the course of the season, it's very hard to argue that XG is very, very good at predicting long-term results. I mean, you look at year in and year out all the European leagues, and the top 4, 5, 6 teams in XG tend to be the same. It might be a slightly different order, but they're all right there. And no surprise, defending champions and current Eastern Conference leaders, New York City, are right at the top, plus 0.92 per game. And you can go down the list all the way to the bottom. I don't even want to say it because Carm already knows. But there it is, sweet Toronto FC at the very, very bottom, minus 0.86 per game. But again, this is a good indicator just to show you how teams have been playing through the season. And it's something I use week in and week out. I also put on, in this graphic, just ways to look at just, overall volume numbers. So shots allowed, shots taken, both on goal and overall as well. So again, usually lines up pretty well with your XG numbers. The more shots you're going to take, generally you're going to produce more expected goals because you're just putting the volume up there. Even if they're not necessarily all great shots, volume will add up. So they line up pretty well. Any game, right? These numbers don't necessarily predict the winner of a certain game, but they are at least something to start to look at to try to picture that out. So this particular game, Carmen, you mentioned exactly what I wanted to say. I mean, these are, if you look at those XG numbers, these are the two worst teams in the league in expected goals allowed. Toronto allows 2.04 per game, the only team allowing more than 2. And second worst in the league is, you guessed it, San Jose, right behind them at 1.94 expected goals allowed per game. You look at just volume, Toronto allow the most shots in the league, averaging 15.2 shots allowed per game, while San Jose allow the most shots on goal at 6.1. So it's very hard to argue that these defenses aren't going to give up many chances to either one of these teams. The interesting part about San Jose is that while their defense obviously very, very bad, their offense has actually been pretty good. They generate 1.42 expected goals per game, which ranks right in the middle of the table. And they create 13.8 shots per game, which actually ranks 5th in the league, and 4.5 on goal, which ranks 9th. So it's not their offense that's a problem this season. It's definitely their defense. Toronto, it's probably a little bit of both. But even though Toronto hasn't been generating a ton of chances or expected goals, they still do find a way to score. As Carm knows, they've scored in 13 of their 18 matches this season. So for all those reasons, and just like Carm mentioned, I believe the over here is a great way to play it. It is set high at 3 for obviously good reason. But neither team, can you trust their defense? And if either one grabs a lead, neither team's going to feel comfortable with a lead, because how can they trust that defense? So there is another option to play this, which, we all like to look at, and you can look at this combo market. Both teams to score, plus over 2.5 goals. So instead of just taking over 3 goals, you combine the both teams to score plus over 2.5 goals, which is minus 120 odds. So basically in this situation, a 2-1 type of a result actually wins us our bet versus 2-1 pushing on over 3. So I like that as another option. Most American books, you're going to find that. DraftKings, for example, you go to game parlays, and then you choose the both teams to score /total tab. So most will find it. But if you don't have it, take over 3 goals. I think this one should have plenty of chances both ways.
All right, Nick Borman, WagerTalk.com. And Nick, I agree with you. Pavlos, before I go to you, one of the reasons, I look at it, of course, with Insigne playing his first game and mentioning the atmosphere, we're going to see some goals. I figure, and it's similar to when Pazuello made his first start at BMO Field and being there, and it was the same amount of electricity, but back then, Toronto had a much more fluid attack. You had Victor Vasquez in midfield, and Bradley wasn't as slow as he is right now. Toronto just isn't a fast-moving team, and we'll see what these adjustments that they make with them. They're trying to get K as well too in a transfer deal from Colorado, so we'll see if they're able to get him. But Pavlos, give me your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, this match, Nick made some great points about the XG numbers, and these are 2 of the worst defenses in the league. Toronto, they have conceded 34 goals. That's the second worst defense in the entire MLS. San Jose, they've conceded 35, which is the worst defense in the entire MLS. So here's the thing: Toronto, they've been using probably the exact same lineup in each of the last 5 or 6 matches, and tiredness is bound to hit them at some point. And it probably has, because, they lost the last 2 matches. And I didn't really love what I saw from them. So now with Pozuelo at the brink of being sold to Inter Miami, and with the new reinforcements not being, at 100%, I was reading about Insigne still nursing some kind of a hamstring injury. But if you say he's going to play, well, maybe he'll play. But still, I can't really trust Toronto on the money line here. I think this match has a lot of draw here. Of course, we should be expecting a lot of goals, and historically, these 2 sides have produced a lot of goals. Both teams to score is 5-1 in the last 6. Over 2.5 goals is 5-1 in the last 6. Toronto kind of mediocre as hosts against San Jose over the years. 3 wins, 3 losses, 3 draws. Perfect balance there. But I can't really trust San Jose either on the road. They've been really bad on the road this season. They haven't won any matches, 0 wins, 6 losses, 2 draws. They scored 8, conceded 18 goals, and they're just one of the 2 teams to not have won a first half on the road. So maybe we could see Toronto getting a lead in the first half, boosted by the presence of Insigne and the new, signings. But I do expect San Jose to score maybe multiple goals in this situation. So a slight hint of a draw, but I totally agree with the total. I like the both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. Much better because, as Nick said, you get paid in the event of a 2-1, 1-2 draw. 2-1 over 1-2 win for either side. So goals here.
And we know that 2-1 scoreline, Pavlos, is one that we see quite often across Europe, and we've seen them over the last few weeks of MLS as well too. Kev, I'm going to go to you for the final word on this one, Kev, but a little bit of humor before I go to you on this one. with the news on Pozuelo, it pretty much upset my wife. She comes to every single game. She's a football fan as well too. Every jersey that she has bought, the player has left the team. Jovinko, Soltaldo, Pozuelo, and do you know whose jersey arrives tomorrow? Insigne. She purchased the Insigne jersey. I don't know if that bodes well for this team or not, but she's bought 3 jerseys. They're no longer part of this team. I should get her a Cristiano Ronaldo one, I think, next. What are your thoughts on today? Your thought on this game Saturday?
I'd say a lot of Man United fans are looking for, to buy Harry Maguire's jersey next, but I'm in complete agreement with the boys. I think there will be goals in this one myself. Possibly another line you might want to try and, buy this down to 2 3/4, 2.75. That's going around minus 138 right now. But, no matter what way you look to approach this game, it's, very difficult to look past goals. And the boys covered it. It's both of these teams have been defensively, lapsed this season. Toronto, worst defensive team in the Eastern Conference, 1.89 goals allowed per game. They also own the conference's worst goal differential as well. San Jose have been equally bad. Earthquakes giving up 2.06 goals per game this season at the back, along with an even higher 2.25 goals allowed per game away from home as well. And Toronto have allowed multiple goals across 4 of the last 5 home starts as well. So I don't see any way, we don't see at least 3 goals in this game on Saturday, especially considering, the data backs those defensive numbers up as well. Toronto ranked bottom of the league this year in terms of overall expected goals against, both overall and at home. While San Jose have the 3rd worst rating on the road this season. So, with both teams in some pretty decent form offensively, at the other end of the pitch, both Toronto and San Jose ranking joint 2nd in the MLS in terms of recent 5-game home form. Both teams failing to find the back of the net in just 40% of all the recent matches, along with keeping just 1 clean sheet, no goals allowed at the back in just 1 of the last 10 games combined. So, looking at all those stats, it's got to be goals for me in this one. I like that over 2.75 if you can get it. Over 3 is okay as well. But probably the best prop on the board is the one Nick mentioned earlier, over 2.5, both teams to score. That looks very appealing as well.
All right. I think we're all on the same page with regards to hopefully seeing some goals, and I'm going to be there. So, of course, I will be watching it live and hoping for some goals as well, too. Guys, we're going to get on to the second game. And this is another one I'm looking forward to seeing, Portland and Seattle. Let's have a look at the odds on this one. The Sounders minus 120 at home. The Draw is plus 275. The Timbers plus 300. This is one of the MLS's fiercest rivalries, one that dates back to the North American Soccer League. And these two teams make up 2 of the 3 as far as the Cascadia Cup goes, with the other one being the Vancouver Whitecaps. A couple teams that are battling for playoff spots. Pablos, I'm going to go to you first on this one to get your thoughts on this one. Being a Sounders guy and knowing this rivalry, give me your thoughts on this game.
To be honest, I'm kind of afraid for the Sounders in this situation. Cascadia derbies between the 2 sides have been very weird in the sense that just one host win in the last 10 matches between the 2 sides, regardless of venue. So 4 away wins for each team and one home win for the Timbers. Seattle are winless in the last 5 home matches against Portland with 4 losses and 1 draw. Last season, each of the 3 matches these 2 played against each other were won by the visiting side. Seattle won twice and Portland won once. Seattle are better in the Cascadia Derby with 14 wins, 11 losses, and 7 draws in MLS regular season matches. And the Sounders, they made a bad start in the season because they were engaged in the CONCACAF Champions League matches and the US Open Cup. But since, they won the Champions League, they dropped out of the Cup. And since then, they've been really good with 6 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw. They're climbing the standings in the Western Conference, while Portland just 3 points behind them, but with 2 more matches. Portland, they've had a really mediocre season so far, and they've been mediocre at best on the road with 1 win, 4 losses, and 5 draws. And despite the struggles, they're now unbeaten in the last 4. This Portland Timberside, but those were their only wins in their last 7: 2 wins, 3 losses, and 2 draws. So Portland, they're 8-2 to the both teams score on the road. Both teams score is 8-1 in the last 9 matches in Seattle between the two sides, and 11-2 in the last 13. So I'm looking. Actually, I'm going to be waiting until I see Rui Diaz, if Rui Diaz is going to start or not, or if he's going to play at all. But I think both teams score at -140 is the way to go here. Usually we see goals from both sides whenever these two teams meet, and I expect something similar today. I think this match starts at 1-1, and then maybe we'll see some more goals. But in the fear of a 1-1 draw, I'm going to take both teams to score at -140 here.
All right. Pavlos Lagaretos of Sports Memo. Nick, Pavlos made a good point of, we saw teams at the beginning of the season didn't perform well because they were focused on the Champions League. One of them was New York City FC, who won the title last year, and they've started to make their way up the standings. They're 4th in the East now after struggling near the bottom of the East standings. We're going to see the same thing from this Seattle team, who are sitting 7th now, but off a very good June month for them.
Absolutely, and we've already seen it, and that's going to be my main point here. If you're looking at just season result numbers here on Seattle, they don't look great, but you got to throw out those first 8 games, as you guys alluded to, during CONCACAF. The MLS is just not deep enough, like the European teams, to be able to juggle 2 competitions. So Seattle, kudos to them, first MLS team to win the Champions League in its current format, which does mean they're going to participate in that FIFA Club World Cup as well. So it'll be interesting to see who they get paired up with there. But yeah, I mean, they could not juggle both. They start off the season, those first 8 games, they won just 2 of them. But since then, they've won 6 of their last 9 to climb back into the playoff position. I mean, you looked at those first 8 games. If they weren't bottom of the table, they were second to bottom of the table. So they've made a nice run, and there's no doubt in my mind Seattle will be right in the thick of the playoff race when the season comes to a close, and they'll be in there. And they have, a ton of experience doing it. So I have no worries about the Sounders making it long term. But Pavlos did, allude to what I am worried about here as well, and that's just how dominant the road team has been in this series. And one thing I'll mention for MLS in general when betting is that if you watch the opening lines, you'll see a lot of lines open up as it currently did, where Seattle's a favorite or a half a goal favorite, -110, -120, whatever it may be. But a lot of public money will take those favorites. And if you wait, which I expect this thing will do, I think plus 0.75 is going to pop out on Portland. And when it does, it's 100% going to be on my card. Taking that 3/4 goal line in the MLS is very, very profitable. I mean, there's not a lot of blowouts in the MLS, and, there's a lot of teams that can play out to that draw or even win on the road. And Portland certainly has the pedigree to be able to do so, and this series clearly has proven that. So I'm going to wait for that 3/4 of a goal line. And, if Portland does win, if Seattle does win, it's probably not going to be in blowout fashion. So, hey, I kind of look at it as, if at plus 0.75, it's kind of like a half unit risk to win a full unit wager. I mean, yeah, they could lose by 2 or 3 and it doesn't matter, but I like plus 0.75 here. Even at plus 0.5, that's where my money would go in Portland. But wait this thing out. I think we'll get a better number closer to kickoff.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to you, Kev. I tend to agree with Nick as well, too. I think we're going to get a better number. And the MLS is much more competitive now. This league has improved by leaps and bounds. Everyone used to refer to it as the retirement league. Players come from Europe when they're in their late 30s. But this team, this league now is fueling both the national programs, both up here in Canada and in the U.S. Both teams obviously qualifying for this year's 2022 World Cup in Qatar. And of course, the USA, Canada, and Mexico hosting the World Cup in 2026. This league is only going to continue to improve. The games are only going to continue to be more and more competitive. Is this going to be a competitive game between these two?
Yeah, I'd imagine it's going to be competitive, definitely, Carmine, but I still have to look towards taking Seattle in this one. One of my major factors when I'm looking at MLS games is the recent form table. You need to see which teams are in scorching hot right now. And, there isn't a better example than that in the MLS than the Seattle Sounders. They're averaging 2.00 points per game over the last 5 starts. That's by far the best return out of any team in the MLS right now. They've bagged 11 goals over that 5-game stretch. They've scored in every single game. They've shut out 3 of their last 5 opponents on defense as well, failing to allow a single goal. And, that's led them as a result to having by far the best goal difference out of any team in the MLS right now over that 5-game stretch. Seattle showing a +8 goal differential over the last 5 starts, which is more than double the next best, LAFC's return at just +4. So this Seattle team are in some really, blistering form right now. And, I believe they continue that and have a bit too much for Portland in this one come Saturday. While Portland have gone unbeaten over the last 4 games overall, they have been a little fortunate in those games. They beat out the Houston Dynamo at home last week. But got absolutely shredded in the XG battle in that game. 2.67 to just 1.25 chances created, yet still somehow came out on top of the right side of a 2-1 victory in that game. Penalties, always help, of course, when you're looking to get a victory. But the same thing happened in their draw against the LA Galaxy 2 weeks earlier. Got outgunned 1.70 to just 0.91 in overall XG, yet, came very close to winning that game outright. So there have been a couple of red flags for me on Portland already this season. Another one, obviously, being Jaroslav Niezgoda's, Portland's top scorer this season, managing just 6 goals from just 3.89 XG. So, Portland are continually finding ways to grind out results from, very little this season. And while it may have been working for them so far, especially over the last few games, I do believe that run comes to an end here against the Seattle side in some absolutely red-hot form. So, it's got to be Seattle for me.
A derby. So where are we going here?
Well, you said it, Carmine. It has been difficult not to have been impressed with how well, LAFC have played this season. Number 1 team overall in the league, number 1 in goals scored, number 1 in goals allowed, number 1 in total shots at home, and so on, right across the board. And the scary thing for a lot of opponents is, that underlying data for LAFC actually backs a lot of that dominance up. Number 1 expected goals at home this season. Number 2 overall the entire MLS as well, behind only New York City FC. So, the results do bear out the data in terms of this team's overall success rate this year. And, while they've obviously got some, a few injury concerns to deal with ahead of this game, I nonetheless believe this is still a decent price in LAFC to win this game. I priced it up as -150 going by my numbers. So, the Galaxy are a solid team this year, no doubt. Fewest goals allowed in the road in the Western Conference this season. 1.33 points per game generated on average over the last 6 road starts as well. 7th highest average in the league right now. And the Galaxy are unbeaten against LAFC in each of the last 5 head-to-heads. So, this is definitely not a layup type game by any stretch here on Friday. But, saying all that, it's just in all those little areas where I give LAFC the edge in this one. And, all of those little advantages start to build up. LA Galaxy have allowed the second most counter-attacking goals out of any team in the MLS this season. And what's an area LAFC are particularly strong in offense offense-wise this year, it's in counter-attacks. LAFC have the 3rd highest goals tally in the league this season from counter-attacking situations. And it's the same on defense as well. LAFC ranks 2nd in total goals allowed from open play this season at home. And what's an area LA Galaxy have struggled in to create opportunities this season away from home? Goals from open play, just 5 goals all season on the road from open play situations for the Galaxy. That's the 7th lowest mark in the league. So it's all those little edges I like to look at when evaluating games. And, LAFC hold the percentage share in this one. So, it's got to be LAFC for me to get the win here against the LA Galaxy on Friday. Another good angle in this game is to look at the second half live line if the game is close, as LAFC rank 1st in the league this season on second half form. By a fairly huge margin as well. Not so hot in the first half, however, LAFC rank all the way down in 24th. So if this game's tight after the first 45 minutes, might be a good time to live bet LAFC on the second half live line. So, I like Los Angeles FC outright. And if the game's close, look for them on the second half line as well.
All right. Kevin Dolan, WagerTalk.com. Pavlos, give me your thoughts on this game.
Tricky, but I think the LAFC will be boosted by the presence of Gareth Bale and Chiellini in this match. I'm not sure if they're going to start, but they're eligible to play. And LAFC, they have the best offense in the conference, the best defense in the conference. They have the best home record in the conference, the best home offense in the conference, but the 4th worst home defense with 10 conceded goals. They're 7-3 to the over 2.5 goals at home. And the LA Galaxy, they've been mediocre on the road so far, 3 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. They've scored just 8 goals, which is the 2nd worst away offense in the conference, and they have conceded just 6, which is the best away defense. So there is a lot of contradicting stats between the two sides this season individually for each side. I must say that the LA Galaxy are 2-5 to the over 2.5 goals on the road. So a lot of very tight matches on the road. This will be the 3rd match of the season between the two sides. The Galaxy won both matches at home, once for the MLS and once for the US Open Cup. And both matches produced both teams to score and over 2.5 goals combo. And between the two sides, we've seen a lot of fireworks over the years. Both teams to score is 12-3 between the two sides, and 5-0 in the last 5. And over 2.5 goals is 11-4 and 4-1 in the last 5. And in this venue, both teams to score and over 3.5 goals is 5-2 in 7 matches in this venue. So we see a lot of high-scoring matches between the two sides historically in this venue. And LAFC are better, the better team when they're hosting, with 3 wins, 1 loss, and 3 draws. So the way I'm looking at this is taking the combination of LAFC to win, and I'm going to pair it with the over 1.5 goals at plus 100, I think, plus money. And, I'm kind of scared of maybe a 2-0 win by LAFC or something like that. But I think the combination of LAFC to win and over 1.5 goals at plus 100 covers a lot of possible scenarios here. So I'm jumping all over that.
All right, Pavlos. Nick, before I go to you for the final words on this one, we had some audio issues when I did the intro to this game, so I'm just going to let you guys know what I was talking about. I talked about, obviously, this game and some signings for this LAFC team that they've made, similar to the ones that Toronto FC have done. Former defender from Juventus, and Azzurri, the Italian national team defender, Giorgio Chiellini, coming over to play on the West Coast, along with Real Madrid striker and Wales striker Gareth Bale playing for it. So there's a lot of media behind it. The hype should be there. This is a team that, as I mentioned, which you guys didn't hear, I was on Wager Talk today on Friday. I talked about this LAFC team and how well they play at home, but it doesn't always carry on the road, and how they might struggle in Vancouver. And they went and played the Whitecaps, lost 1-0 in that game. But at home, they're 7-2-1 at Bank of California Stadium. So I'm looking for this one to be a good one. It is a rivalry, as I mentioned, and a derby. So I just wanted to get that in there. I apologize for the audio issues that we had. Nick, give us a final word on this game.
Boy, am I glad I get the final word, because there is nothing better I like than to just disagree with my friend Kevin, and in this case, disagree with Pavlos. And that's what I'm doing here. I mean, listen, I get it. LAFC, look at all the numbers this year. Great. I don't care. The history of this derby has proven that it doesn't matter. LAFC is always better than the Galaxy every year. It doesn't matter. LAFC have 3 wins in 15 matches against the Galaxy. The Galaxy dominate this matchup. It is what it is. And it's also worth noting, Pavlos was right about both teams to score and the goals markets. 12 of 15 meetings have seen both teams score. That prop by itself is too high. It's almost pushing minus 200. So not going to suggest that, but combining it with the over 2.5 market, as I suggested in our first preview, does get the price down to a minus 130. 10 of 15 matches have seen that combo hit, which is 67%, which would equate to minus 200 odds. So based on the past history, the minus 130 price does have some good value. But to me, this is Galaxy plus 3/4 of a goal. Again, it's that key number of plus 3/4 here. If they're going to lose, maybe it's by a goal, but it ain't going to be by much more than that, or any more than that, I don't think. So I'm looking at that same kind of half wager risk to win a full wager. LAFC own the second best expected goal differential per game at plus 0.7. There's no doubt they've been good, but the Galaxy are not far behind at number 3, plus 0.57, and just not worth that 3/4 goal line. So I'm sorry, history is too much to ignore in these rivalry type games for me, in these derbies especially. So I'm taking the Galaxy to at least draw this thing, if not win it outright.
All right. There is the final word from Nick Borman. Guys, we're going to be back next week with an EPL special show preview. Please tune in, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. We appreciate you guys tuning in. 3 games, of course, that we discussed on the card: Toronto FC, San Jose Earthquakes, the Portland Seattle rivalry game, and of course, the El Tráfico LAFC and the LA Galaxy. For myself, Nick Borman, Kevin Dolan, and Pavlos Lagaretos, thanks for tuning in, and good luck with your wagers, guys.
Why pay the regular price when you can save money on every purchase with WagerBucks at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo? WagerBucks are now eligible for use on not just daily, 3-day, and 7-day passes, but all long-term and seasonal packages up to 1 full year. There are tons of options available for every budget and size of bettor. From low as $100 gets $110, all the way up to $2,500 gets you $3,000. Save every day on every pick you buy with WagerBucks.